Hello, welcome to the Cinema Savvy Movie Podcast, the channel for film reviews, discussions and everything in between. I'm Chris Garner, joined by my co-hosts Tayte in the Hour and George Aldridge, and today is the day. We finally got Star Wars The Force Awakens. We all checked out a midnight screening last night, but we got back pretty late. I had internet problems, couldn't get on to do a recording, so we've decided to do it today. I know we've got a lot to talk about, and this one is probably going to be one of our most interesting reviews to date, because based on sort of general opinions of everyone, this might get into quite a heated debate today. So,
quite.
Yes.
Are you sure? After what you've said pre-recording to this is going to be
I have text
a bloodbath.
And I have evidence on my phone.
What was the line that you quoted?
I'm going to quote it later for dramatic effect.
Brilliant. We'll use it then.
So, as you can tell from that, we have sort of talked briefly about it. We haven't gone really into depth in loads of scenes. We've just sort of like gone initial opinions. So yeah, this is going to be a really interesting one. First, we can sort of talk about our actual cinema going experiences, if you like. I can say that me and my friend were the first two people in for the first ever screening of Force Awakens in that cinema, which was fantastic. And it is probably the best sort of cinema going experience I've ever had. Full house, packed, proper fans in there. You had people in like Jedi robes. You had one dressed as Chewbacca, which was fantastic. Someone came in the Boba Fett shirt, and just sort of all the merchandise and stuff at the the entrance hall. That, I don't know if you guys got that at your cinema, but I actually ended up buying everything. I got the 2 popcorn tins. This was at Odeon Cinema for me. They did a sort of plastic cups with a different figure on the straws for each one. So I just thought, you know what? It's not every day you get a Star Wars movie in the cinema with all this stuff. So I just went ahead and just got the lot.
I can't really compete with that. My cinema was, put it this way, you want to look cool in a group of people, or you want to be on your own, and there was some person on their own dressed up. They actually hid in the corner. I only saw them when I walked up the stairs to go to my screen. I turned my head and I spoke to my sister, goes, thank God I didn't dress up. And nothing really happened. I didn't buy any merchandise. I picked up my 3D glasses last week. I think the only thing View did was a BB-8 straw, which I didn't find out till tonight after my second viewing. But it was just a lot of hype, a lot of recognisable faces in the crowds, and everyone wearing Star Wars t-shirts. But it wasn't kind of what I wished the American audience would be like.
Yeah, we didn't get any applause at our one. I don't know if you guys did at your one.
Nothing. There's a scene where I screamed, and I was the only one apparently.
My cinema was actually quite energetic. I mean, we weren't filled with, say, people dressed up. We were filled with a bunch of, like, film fans. And in fact, when you went to our screening, they actually separated the cinema out into people who were wearing costumes and people who weren't. I was in the non-costumed one, even though my dad had his hair, he has dreadlocks, by the way, up in layer buns. And it was actually a really good atmosphere in there. I mean, everyone was very excited to go see it. Everyone gasped, everyone laughed, everyone laughed a lot. This is a very funny film. But it was really good atmosphere. I went to Cineworld, by the way, and they had drink toppers. That was all they had, which weren't very good and very expensive, so we just went with that as a film-going experience.
And one thing I just wanted to sort of bring up was sort of like the ages of people in my cinema. It was honestly mostly like early 20s to mid 20s, and then all the rest were like the really old fans, from like probably grew up with the originals. Was speaking to one guy at the entrance because we got there hours before the film started. They let us into the cinema at 10:30, and then we sort of just sat in there and was chatting to this one guy whose first ever one he saw growing up was Return of the Jedi, and we just sort of had a discussion with him about the prequels, whether we were hyped for this one, what we expected, and things like that. And it was just such a really nice atmosphere. Everyone was friendly. It was like just sort of like everyone was kindred spirits in there. You could just chat to anyone about it, and it was all good fun. So for that reason, it's probably the best sort of cinema going experience I've ever had, and one I'll always remember.
Again, I can't compete with that. Mine one was boring.
No. So I should have said this at the start really, but we are going to go spoiler free for the first part, and then that probably won't be such a long section, because a film like this you really sort of have to get into the nitty gritty of it and start talking all the spoilers and things that happen. But when that comes up, we will most certainly let you know, because we're not going to be those dicks that end up spoiling the film. So spoiler free. Oh boy, I'm ready. I'm ready for you two to hate me at the end of this review. This is Cinema Savvy Civil War right now, I
Oh
think. This is how
no,
this is going to end
no,
up.
this is worse than Civil War. Would you like to say the quote now then? The text that you got sent.
Oh no! Wait there, let me get my phone. Right. So there I was. I had a really emotional Facebook status last night. Chris thought I agreed with him on his opinion of the film. I'm not gonna go with the. Actually, should I go with the first text you sent me?
Yeah, go
Am
for
I
it.
right or am I right when I say the Force Awakens sucked?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
at that
yeah.
point,
Oof.
mm, then I'm gonna go
Be-
down a few
yeah,
texts. I actually came out listing Phantom Menace as positives.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
then I've pretty much already forgotten this one, but at least the Phantom Menace had epic bits.
yeah, yeah.
And I didn't reply because I said I'd speak later.
Yeah,
I know.
because your post on Facebook was something about like I'm sitting here right now just staring blankly at a wall, emotionless, and I thought, oh,
Yeah,
maybe he didn't like the film as well.
no, I did. I just had no emotions. I mean, I was chatting to Tate. I was on my computer wearing 3D glasses because I could not remove them because of the tears and bloodshot eyes underneath. I'm not going to talk about the details of that until we get to the spoiler section, though.
Yeah, right. So I think this is a good jumping off point. Let's just get into sort of our initial opinions. Obviously, no spoilers in this one. You guys have basically said already what you think of it, but general opinions. What do you guys think?
Well, I certainly didn't think what you thought.
Not
I
many people do.
enjoyed it. In fact, like when we do our top 10 favorite films of the year and possibly our top 10 least favorite films of the year, this is going to be up in my top 5 for the side of that video. And I don't care if you hate that film. In fact, I'm probably going to put it at number 1 just to spite you.
Mine already is at number one.
What was that?
This is already at number one for me.
Um, I still have a different film at number 1. And I just enjoyed the film. I mean, I wasn't sat there trying to critique it.
I wasn't either. This
like,
was just my opinion on watching it.
It was a homage to the old Star Wars films. There was loads of different things in there. I mean, you've got some of the old characters, which are the obvious ones. Just small little things in the film. This isn't really a spoiler, but Finn accidentally knocks something on the Millennium Falcon, and the game of chess appears up from the first Star Wars, and I just thought, that is perfect. It's not on the nose, it's just kind of there in the background, just amazing homage to the previous films. And the atmosphere from the film, it was emotional, I laughed, I know that George cried.
I cried
was-
many times.
It was everything about that film was amazing, and the characters were good, the visual effects were good, the costumes were brilliant, the dialogue was good. Yeah, sure, it wasn't a perfect film, there were always downsides to films, but this film was good, and that's all that matters. And in fact, whilst I was watching it, I was thinking in my head, is this as good as the original trilogy? And if I was going to re-rank them, where would I put this one? And I was genuinely debating on putting it third. I really was. So that shows how good this film is.
With me, everyone knows I love Star Wars. It's my childhood. It's everything. It's back. And after doing 6 films in the day, I did it. The challenge worked. George wins. Then I proceeded to midnight. I was very hyped. When the Lucasfilm logo came on, I shivered, and then when the credits came on, I cried. I'll happily admit that was tears of joy. And what pursued is without a doubt one of my greatest cinematic memories. I sat there. I can pinpoint the exact scene where I was there. Like, this is why I love films. This is why I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the Phantom Menace as a kid. I envy every single child that's going to fall in love with this one, because they're going to grow up and this is still going to be great. They're never going to dislike this. I had turned on the Phantom Menace. It was a bad day. But with this, it was kind of this thing where everything's right. It had the right amount of nostalgia. You didn't have too much of it, but you had to have some of it. And it was everything from seeing the locations, and you can tell they're using sets. It was great, and it's going to help it as it goes on. The intimidation of the stormtroopers. It was everything I wanted from this film and more. I had such high expectations, and it met them and actually exceeded them, which I didn't think it would do. I seriously thought before the film, I had a moment, a bit like fanboys, where they go, "What if it's shit?" And then it started, and I knew within 10 minutes it wasn't going to be shit. It was great. I've seen this twice now. I'm seeing it again on Sunday, and I'm probably going to see it a few more times.
I think I'm seeing it next Monday. The fact that like people are going to be rewatching this film, and so far, Chris, not going to lie, but you're the only person who I know on the entire internet who's not liking it right now.
I've actually gone on like comment boards and stuff. There are a few that not probably don't hate it as much as me, but are also let down by it a little bit. My friend went to see it today. We were both meant to go to see it today, but unfortunately I was at work, so I couldn't make it. He went to see it. He thought exactly the same as me. In fact, we had probably like a 2-hour discussion earlier on in the afternoon, just going through the whole film, what we liked, what we didn't, and we was pretty much on the same wavelength. Oh boy, here goes. Okay, I was massively, crushingly let down by this movie. And I just want to say, like, I didn't go into it expecting it to be the best Star Wars film ever. In fact, I sort of went in, sat down, and thought, well, nothing is going to top the originals. It can't. That's what they did for cinema, sort of how long they've been out. They're untouchable. I know that. I just wanted it to be. I want it to be good. I wanted it to take me on adventure. I wanted it to make me feel excited. I wanted that wow factor. Hit the ending, boom, Star Wars is back for good. And I just had no reactions like that throughout the entire movie. There were bits. There was some of like the comedic lines, sort of, you got a chuckle out of them, but our audience was pretty much just like dead all the way through. Like, I think one of the bad things about this film is the pacing. To me, it was like that moment where you're hyped for a film, you sit down, and like the first 10-15 minutes is just not doing anything for you. And that's sort of what I had with like Indiana Jones 4. Now, of course, this film is nowhere near as bad as Indiana Jones 4 was, but it was that same sort of feeling.
Hold on.
But it's worse than The Phantom Menace.
Earlier you said it was worse than Prometheus.
No, listen, you misinterpreted what I said there. I said about Prometheus with the open-endedness of a lot of the things. It raises a lot of questions and doesn't pay any of them off because it wants you to come back for the next one. That's what I meant by Prometheus in that way, but I'll get onto that later. So like for the first 15-20 minutes was going by, and I was like, I'm not liking this as much as I should be right now. And I was trying. I was like clawing for anything. I was like, I'm trying to get on board with these characters, and it's just I'm not getting anything from them. I don't care about Finn. I don't care about Rey. There was just no sort of character moments at the beginning to just sort of get me invested, and that sort of lasted all the way through the movie for me. It did pick up in one scene, which I can't go into with spoilers, but it involved sort of a big action build between Finn and Rey when they sort of meet up and they're trying to get away together. That bit sort of had me, and then I thought, okay, we're back on track now. Maybe this is where it's going to pick up. And then as soon as that scene ended, it just sort of meandered on from scene to scene. I think the story was sort of very stretched with not much focus. And in all honesty, I think the bad thing about this was that the whole focus of the movie is really pushing these new characters. It is a new generation. Of course, the old ones are in it, and we're never going to be in it as much as, like, probably I wanted to for ages. But in my opinion, other than Han, you really don't get much of the other characters. Like, if you're going into this expecting to see C-3PO and R2-D2 a lot, you really don't get that. In fact, R2's probably only in one scene. Leia only has a collection of scenes, and she doesn't come into it until probably 3/4 of the way through the movie. So a lot of stuff like that just sort of really let me down in that regards, and that wouldn't have been a problem for me if I'd have cared about Finn, Rey, or Kylo Ren. But sort of as the film went on, I didn't care about any of these characters, and they're just taking all the screen time, and it made me longingly want to see the old characters back on screen, just so I had some kind of attachment. This may all change when we get to episode 8 and 9 and we've sort of had more time with the characters, but I mean, watching the original Star Wars, I love all those characters just from that one movie, and I don't know, I just didn't get that from this one.
You said about the first 10-15 minutes, you're telling me that opening scene thing I can't talk about yet.
Yeah, no.
That didn't get you going?
Not really.
Jesus.
Honestly, some of the shots were nice, and you can definitely tell that this is a new director. you'd sort of and one thing I do miss from this, you do get the occasional few, but not as many as I like. The really dodgy scene transitions, which have just always been a part of Star Wars. I can only remember about two or three of those. Now I have only seen it the once. I know you guys have. Both of you have seen it twice now, right?
No, I've seen
No,
it once.
just
Yeah.
me.
I know I'm off to see it again on the weekend. I've got a couple of other mates that want to see it. And Star Wars is just one of those films where even if you don't care for it, you still have to see it multiple times to just try and convince yourself to like it.
You need to go
But
again, like 10 times again. Please go
yeah,
for your own
but
safety.
like I'm not going to spoil it here, but I thought the opening shot was really good. I think that mirrored a lot of things from the previous Star Wars films, and I really did like that. But the actual, just I can't go into depth into it. But there was one character, there was one actor I was really looking forward to seeing in this film, what character he was going to be playing, and he's more or less just a cameo in this film, and I was really let down by that. The action was sort of playing out, and I don't know, it just didn't grip me. It didn't grip me as much as the other Star Wars films did with their opening action scenes.
Oh.
But I will say this: I do approve of sort of the new style of how it looked. There are shots in this involving, this isn't a spoiler because you've seen it in the trailer, but sort of when all the stormtroopers are gathered in that ship and they're ready to sort of deploy. Those are shots that you would have never have got in any of the prequels, for example, or even the original trilogy, really. So I did approve of that stuff. It's just the actual context of the action scene; it just didn't grip me at all.
Well, I have to say that, like, the action in this film was better than the prequels and better than A New Hope. Yeah, sure, in A New Hope you have the trench run. But in this film there was so many great action scenes that you could just pick off the top of your head. Without going into spoilers too much, I'm not actually going to tell you what the action scenes are until we move into the spoiler section. But what I'm saying is, like, the Millennium Falcon chase, which we saw in the trailers, that is good. That is very good. Very well done.
Yeah.
Very fluent. The way they get around the situation is brilliant. The action leading up to that point was also quite good and funny. One thing you'll probably hear me saying a lot in this review is this is the goddamn funniest Star Wars film.
And it's
Not only that, but, like, it isn't cheesy. It really isn't cheesy at all.
I will
Like-
argue that point on you, but carry on.
nail on the head.
Jar Jar Binks is cheesy. BB-8 is adorable and hilarious.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying on that topic. Go on.
I was just, it's not. It is funny, and it's the right funny. The funny has come from the fun of the film. This isn't trying to be funny in a serious thing like Jar Jar Binks. It just naturally happens. The characters are naturally have their own personas, and it bounces off. I mean, the one thing I'm going to go into is that the chemistry between John Boyega and Daisy Ridley in this is phenomenal. And I've got John Boyega on Snapchat. That's another claim to fame. And you know they're good mates. He calls her Peanut. She's got a nickname for him, and he's just buzzing 24/7. And you can see that on the screen. It really helps his character because you know that he's having a good time, but in the sense that it's coming onto screen and it's working. It doesn't look bogged down. Ewan McGregor looks tired and bored in Attack of the Clones. No one does in this film.
And something else, just like the action scenes towards the end are very well done. Like the you see in the trailer the assault on Starkiller Base. Maybe could have done with it being slightly longer. I mean, that would be the only flaw to that scene. Other than that, like, the action is just brilliantly done. And I don't know why you hate this film, Chris. Why do you hate this film?
I think just for me it was not being connected to the characters. Like, you could have had the same action scenes in this film and that would have been fine. I honestly didn't care about any of the characters. And I think what may come from that is that, yes, there are some jokes in this film that do hit. There was a lot of times that the audience were all chuckling at the same time, which was great. And what you said about BB-8, absolutely, without a question of a doubt, my favourite character in this film. Everything with BB-8 was fantastic. No words uttered at all, but it was all just done from the movements. And the fact that it was a practical object really do make that like a really endearing and cute character, I thought. Absolutely loved everything with BB-8. But for me, there were a lot of times where the comedy felt really sort of forced, and it was just too much of it in some parts. Like, usually comedy is sort of dedicated to either one or two characters, really. In the original Star Wars, it was mostly sort of the duo of C-3PO and R2-D2. You had a few witty one-liners from Han and the banter that way, and I think that really worked. And considering Lawrence Kasdan helped write this one, I was really looking forward to it. Like as soon as he was announced, I was like, great, we're going to get some like
Well,
Empire Strikes Back level
I'm,
dialogue.
I'm not gonna lie here. The funny characters, base standard, the characters that have humorous exchanges are John Boyega and
Han Solo.
Oscar Isaac, John Boyega and Han Solo, John Boyega and Chewie, John Boyega and BB-8, John Boyega and Daisy Ridley. Those are the hilarious interactions. It's John Boyega's character that brings out the humour in this film and his interactions with everyone else. I cannot pick off a scene where, like, Daisy Ridley, a reasonably serious character, had a hilarious interaction with BB-8. Yeah, sure, that was a very serious relationship in that film. And, like, Poe's relationship with BB-8 was also quite serious. However, every interaction with John Boyega was absolutely hilarious. It's what he brought to the role. And also, there were some parts of the film where he was completely serious. And it worked. It all laid out perfectly fine. Why do you hate this film, Chris? Why do you hate this film?
In regards to the comedy, I do think a lot of his lines were pretty good. I just think they were too much. I would have liked it to have sort of like paced itself with the humour a bit more, because I do think that when someone's just cracking one-liner after one-liner, it does take
But
away
it
from the
wasn't
drama of that
one-liners.
scene.
It really wasn't one-liners.
It was little quips, and it was too much of it. I tell you what, this film felt like to me, okay, and I know that this is like another sci-fi franchise here, so this may piss a lot of people off. This felt like Stephen Moffat was writing this in regards to like
Oh,
the recent
God.
Doctor Who.
Oh, actually,
It,
no. I have a counter-argument. Have you seen the latest series of Doctor Who? Because they had
Series
the greatest...
9 I haven't.
They've had the greatest episode of Doctor Who of all time,
Sorry,
so I think that was a null argument just made there.
I'm just laughing at George laughing. Go on, George, getting in the conversation.
I can't say it yet. I'm gonna drop it like it's hot.
Okay.
I'd have just quoted Snoop Dogg on a Star Wars podcast. Get it. Speaking of John Boyega, the funniest interaction of the whole film is this moment between him and BB-8, which I won't go into details about. But Tate's got the nail on the head. Everything revolves around it. And when he's serious, you believe. He talks about his backstory. He kind of mentions it in the trailer as well. And as it unfolds on screen, you really connect to him. And I kind of love that he's got this sort of, not cockiness, arrogance, but he's so lively. And it pays off. And Poe Dameron, I love. Of the new three, I love all three of them, seriously. I cannot wait to see episode 8 and 9 to see how they're going to develop. But I can't pick a favourite out of the three, and to me that's an amazing sign.
And,
Okay.
I don't know why you didn't like the characters like Daisy Ridley. I was actually concerned about Daisy Ridley going into it. She was the only person who I thought, okay, she's had no acting experience. Something could go wrong here, especially when I saw a film clip of her and she had a very quintessential British accent. And I was just thinking, oh god, this could be quite bad here. But actually, I really enjoyed her character, and she brought out a lot from that character. Just from the very, very start, you feel like she's been waiting for something. I know in the film they say, oh, you're waiting for your family. But, just her character arc in that entire film, the character arcs of most of the characters in this film, just completely transform who the person is on screen into a person who I'd happily say, yes, I would happily accept the three people, the three main characters, the three new ones from this film. I'd invite them back for 3 films, maybe even 4 films. I mean, I'd happily watch films with just these characters, these 3 going on adventures all day, every day.
And
Okay. Oh god, sorry.
I was just going to say, going off the 3 heroes, I want to see more of them. I also want to see more of Kylo Ren.
Yes.
Because they've created one of the best character arcs Star Wars has ever seen, and we've seen him for one film. And that is only going to get stronger and stronger as the next few go on. And I cannot wait to see more, because it's going to be absolutely fascinating. And one thing I'm going to say is that he is what Anakin Skywalker should have been in the prequels. Straight away, that's what it should have been. And I cannot wait to see more of it.
Okay.
Why do you hate this film, Chris?
Is it because he's a black stormtrooper, Chris? Is it?
No.
They explain that really well, actually, but
Yeah.
we won't talk about that now.
Going back to Rey really quickly, I definitely thought Daisy Ridley improved throughout the film, but I do think in her first couple of scenes I did actually find her acting quite wooden actually in the first few shots she was in. And I know that on production, I believe that J.J. Abrams said like the first scenes they shot, he even said that her acting was really wooden, and then since then she sort of like changed it up. But I really wasn't feeling her character until about after that main action beat on Jakku. That's all I'll say. And then afterwards she did start to pick up. But Kylo Ren to me, from his opening scene, I was completely on board with him as a villain. I was like, yes, he's sort of got like a Bane voice going on, but I'll let it go because most mass characters now seem to have that voice.
He has an awesome voice.
And I do like, yeah, I do like Adam Driver's delivery, sort of how he like read the dialogue in those opening scenes. But, and I'm not going to go into spoilers here because this will all be safe for the spoiler discussion, but as the film goes on and you start to learn more about his character and sort of like the guy behind the mask, what you said about what Anakin should have been in the prequels, to me, I just kept seeing that parallel to Anakin from the prequels.
No,
he turns into a
he
whiny,
was not a whiny kid.
emo,
No,
tantrum
he wasn't.
throwing.
He sounds like you.
It's the difference between someone being troubled and tormented and twisted, and a little bratty kid not getting what he wants.
Yeah, exactly, and that's all his character was to me. He was
it's
just like
not.
a really sort of petulant child villain. If something went wrong, he'd sort of like throw his dolly out the pram and just like cut things up with a lightsaber because he was.
That's
No,
what makes him
angry.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Because
It doesn't. It just makes him just
We have
whiny.
not, we have
it's
not seen a bad guy lash out like this before. Darth Vader was very, very... Yeah, sure, he went and did the Jedi Academy, but you didn't see him sprinting in there and murdering people immediately. He just kind of slowly walked up with the entire army. His transformation was like... How he acted was very kind of methodical and stuff like that, even when he was angry. This guy lashes out, and that makes me scared, because it means that none of the characters are safe. In the film, in the next films, whatever. None of the characters are safe, because he could just completely lash out, jump on them, slaughter them immediately, and just move on to the next one. And that's the kind of character it is, and he is a conflicted character in this film.
And we're going to see more of it, and that's the good thing. That's the good thing.
And the fact that this film is just kind of... He's not quite there to the dark side yet as part of this film. He's not quite there at the dark side yet. This film turns him to the dark side completely. And I don't think there's any way of him going back like Darth Vader. There is... I mean, even with Darth Vader, he didn't torture Princess Leia. Yeah, sure, he destroyed her planet. But, he didn't, force torture her with the mind, to get the information out. He just kind of kept her alive for, okay, I'll be able to talk her out of her, possibly. No, Kylo Ren just goes up and just forces, the head to be squeezed or something like that. I don't know how he does it. But, he is a very evil character who will do whatever it takes just to get what he wants, but not in a whiny kind of way. More of a methodical serial killer kind of way.
I concur.
George, what do you think? Yeah,
well,
okay.
I've said about Kylo Ren, Tate spot on. I love this character. I'm saving my bulk of it for the spoiler section because.
Yeah. Why'd you hate this film,
Yeah.
Chris?
Okay, let's get on to one of the older characters as well who comes back. Let's talk about Harrison Ford as Han Solo. I'll kick this off so you guys can just hate me afterwards. I honestly found his acting really wooden in this. I'm talking sort of like Indiana Jones 4, reunion, just comes back. Yeah, seriously, it felt really off to me.
Hold on, whoa, quick question. Did you accidentally walk into a rescreening of Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull?
And you know what? At times it did feel like it.
Oh my god.
It was just his delivery, and one of the things that really sort of, I don't know if you guys picked up on this as well,
that he's
and
a
this
legend.
did remind me of Indiana Jones.
Hold on, Chris, who hurt you?
He touched
this
me.
This film hurt me. This J.J. Abrams hurt me. How about that? The classic line from trailer 2 that ended the trailer, "Chewie, we're home," that got a different read in the film, and it really didn't work as well, I don't think, as it did in trailer 2. And it was sort of like that line, I don't know if you've got, well, I know, George, you haven't seen the whole movie, so you probably won't remember this, but there's a line in Indiana Jones 4 where Shia LaBeouf says something like, "What are you, a teacher?" And he says, "Part-time." In the trailer, it was just like a matter of fact like that, and in the movie, just like a weird accent on it, like part time, and that's the one they used in the film. And to me, that
With
was that
What?
line here.
No.
That's a
I've got
really nitpicky line for that, but
No, no, no,
the
no.
I just
difference
thought he was really
between
wooden, phoned in.
the
Yeah,
difference
go on,
with
sorry.
We're Home is that when they showed it in trailer 2, no one had seen Han Solo in 22 years. If they'd have done a Luke, hidden Han Solo, when they'd have opened that door and he would have burst in and said, "Chewie, we're home," everyone would have had the same reaction. But we did that 6 months ago. That is why it seemed different, because you know what he's going to say, and it kind of did work to a degree. And
It was
I
a
think
different read of the line.
it felt the exact same.
Yeah, it felt the exact
Then
same.
they even had Chewie roaring still. I think with the Solo stuff, you're making me really sad here. I can quote Padme and say, "You're sending me on a path I can't follow. You're breaking my heart."
Breaking my heart.
Harrison Ford is the man. He is Han Solo in this film. He comes on screen, you see, damn, Han Solo's back, and it's a great moment. And then you just see him be Han Solo for the rest of the film. It's great. You see everything you want to see from him, talking his way out of trouble, doing all of that. And the Lawrence Kasdan is strong within him, and it is glorious.
I have to say that Han Solo in this film acts as the guide from Episode 4. He is the person who teaches them about the Force and stuff like that. And everyone kind of said, oh, he's probably going to take up that role. But he did it really well. I mean, he just, as a guide, he offered, like, wisdom at some point. He offered humor. He offered serious moments. He was just like their dad in the film. I mean, he was like, if you had a problem, you go speak to Han, because he is like their just spiritual dad. So, yeah.
Again, there were some scenes that I liked of him. The one, this isn't a spoiler because this is in the trailer. The bit where he basically says that the whole thing with the Force, yeah, it's true, all of it. I did love that scene. Really, really sort of nice character development when you go from him from A New Hope to that scene. Really nice parallel between that two. But it was just maybe it was the writing for me. Some of the one-liners just didn't work, and sort of it just felt a bit clunky. It felt a bit hammy, tongue-in-cheek, and I really didn't care for that. It didn't feel like the classic Han for me. And I know that it's been 30 years, but they tried so hard to capture that magic, and I know that that came across for you too, but to me it just seemed a little off. Um, some characters I want to talk about briefly. A lot of the characters that have sort of been hyped up from the merchandise really don't get a lot to do in the film, and one of the sort of characters of that for me was Captain Phasma. Since that character was announced, and Gwendolyn Christie, I could not wait to see her character in the film. She's a fantastic actress in Game of Thrones, plays Brienne of Tarth, and when the look of the character was released, I was like, yes, this is exactly, it looks exactly like Star Wars. This is what it needs to be, and I know you guys sort of didn't agree with this, but to me, how they put her across, it looked like they were sort of trying to push her as the new Boba Fett type character in the film, sort of the iconic armor-clad character. And she really, to me, doesn't get a lot to do in this movie. I know before we hit record, you were talking about that she sort of instigates something towards the end, but I honestly think with some like creative editing, you could pretty much remove her character from this film. She's only like in 3 scenes maybe, and nothing much would change.
With creative editing, you could remove almost every character from this film.
Yes, the
You
fan
could definitely
edits
get
did
rid
a
of
good
Poe.
job. The fan edits did a good job with that. With
Poe! Don't talk about
previous
Poe.
films.
Sorry.
Oh,
Tayte.
whoa! No, Poe is integral
Wasted
to the
character,
plot.
absolutely wasted character. He was
Wow.
hardly in it.
Oh, please. From the trailers and from the posters, he wasn't in it at all. Like, he was a non-character.
And he was great.
And
And
in
you
the
know-
film, I saw him a lot more often than I expected to see him. And I liked that.
I really didn't. He sort of like just drops out the whole movie for like the second act.
What? Who hurt you, Chris? I mean,
Seriously,
He
like
doesn't-
when I
yeah,
saw the
but he
trailer,
doesn't
like
you don't like the Coen brothers, so of course you would hate him because he's an inside Llewyn Davis. This
Yes.
Star Wars is just.
but I do like Ex Machina.
Yes, and in Ex Machina, he looks like Drake and dances like Drake. Speaking of Ex Machina, after this, we need to talk about General Hooks.
yes.
Yes. Again, I have popular opinions on on that character as well, I'm afraid. But Captain Phasma, yeah. But I just thought there was so much they could have done with the character, and maybe they will. I don't know if that's a spoiler of me saying that, but it's just from this film, to me, it was a huge waste opportunity. I was expecting to see her do a lot more. And when you see Gwendolyn Christie in interviews and stuff, she says she's a kick-ass character. She gets a lot of action in this movie and everything like that. I was like, I can't wait to see a character. And then you see the final product, and she's really just sort of like there in the background, just sort of standing around. She issues an order or two here and there, but other than that, not much gets done with her character, really.
I'll have to admit, as far as where the flaws for this film are,
She is one of them.
this is one of the only flaws. Like, it isn't a big flaw. I mean, in the trailer we had one shot of her. Yeah, sure, she looked like a cool, badass character, and yeah, sure, she was hyped up to be one of the better characters in the film, and she was on the main poster as a huge character. However, like, she is a character who could develop. She knows that now she has to, like, prove herself, as she wasn't really in the film too much. So in the next few films, if they do ask her to return, I reckon, like, she's going to be a big character. Like, I feel like it's the kind of character who you'd expect to possibly kill off one of the main characters. Like, that kind of level of things. Yeah, I know, I said it already. I'm already predicting the next film.
She's someone that I was very excited to see. I love her in Game of Thrones. The armor's great. The Black Series figure's great.
Do you reckon that she would have been a more badass character if she was given a huge fucking sword?
I think if she had her own gun, and I would have loved it if she'd have taken off the helmet. But she didn't have enough time to even want to take off the helmet. She literally was. Whenever she came on screen, she's an imposing threat. Bar maybe one scene, which I think there's just a lot of stuff in the cutting floor that happened with it that disappeared. But as far as I'm concerned, she does do the thing I said. But I thought it was a bit of a shame because my computer background was this amazing image, Mordor-esque of Ren, Hux, Phasma with the army in the background.
Yeah.
The way they hype it, you think she's really going to be the sort of secondary, if not the main thing with Kylo Ren. But in all honesty, General Hux actually gets a lot more attention than I thought, considering how little he's been in any of the marketing or trailers.
And I think we should probably talk about General Hux a bit now as well. He sort of plays the Peter Cushing role in this movie, like the sort of Grand Moff Tarkin type character. Very similar in that he's sort of the boss of the whole operation. He's issuing orders to Kylo Ren, pretty much like how Peter Cushing's character did to Vader in the original Star Wars. But again, I felt his acting was a little sort of just off a little bit. We don't really get much insight into his character. He's just sort of there, and that was sort of one of the negatives of this with the new characters for the most part. It just sort of drops you into it, and it does feel like you're playing catch up a little bit. Like they're referring to things, and you feel like,
And they're not
well, we
referring
haven't
to things
seen
in the
this.
first film. Like in A
Clone
New
Wars
Hope.
gets brought up, and that was
Yep.
That was world
and also,
building.
not
That
gonna,
was world
So
building.
this.
Not gonna lie, Tarkin in the New Hope doesn't really get, like, I mean, yeah, he's a good character, I like him, but, like, you don't really get any backstory on him. You only get that when you watch the prequels and you read the extended universe. It's taken completely out of context if you're saying that, like, Hux's character isn't as good, if not better. When Hux does so much in this film, he's actually talking to, well, we can say the new Emperor, kind of.
Supreme
Leader Snoke. And, like, he has a lot more to do. He makes an epic speech. He is controlling all of the stormtroopers. Kylo Ren does his own thing. Like, he controls the Knights of Ren. He is his own person. He don't need nobody to help him out. Like, Hux is the man controlling everyone else involved, and he does a better job than Tarkin ever did.
Hux is what I love is that speech, and I'm not going to go into the details. No. I'm just going to say he delivers one of the most intimidating speeches, most arousing speech I've heard in a long, long time. I can't even think of a Lord of the Rings villain that could, like, sort of give something like that. I don't know why I'm
Saruman.
brainstorming.
Saruman. Christopher
No,
Lee.
I
No,
I'm
because
trying to
Saruman
think
doesn't even do that. This is the
No,
thing.
he doesn't.
He does. He gives that speech to the Urukai when he's standing on the tower in Two Towers before they go to water, Helm's Deep.
Is it as epic as that?
Yes, it's way more epic.
See, I
It's got
disagree,
Christopher
and
Goddamn Lee.
then there's just this beautiful shot. I can't go into the details, but you see stuff in his eyes, and you just see how like sort of deludedly evil this character is. And I think it was a bit of a welcome surprise because when he's first on, he comes across as he's bad, but then you see more and you realise this guy, he's a big deal, and it's cool. And I can't really talk a lot else about it without spoiling it. So yeah.
Again, I do think a lot was on the cutting room floor with this character. For like how they big him up in scenes like that, but he's just sort of like an incidental character. He's just sort of there with not much going on. I do think that, especially with Phasma, mostly with the dark side stuff and Hux, I think a lot was cut. Hopefully we get to see those scenes, because I know there was an interview and JJ says they probably got about 7 deleted scenes. Whether they make it onto a Blu-ray, I don't know. I know that Star Wars has had deleted scenes before on re-releases and stuff like that, so that would be interesting to see, although I don't think they'll get put back into the film. So we've been sort of going for 40 minutes on spoiler free. One thing I do want to touch on, and you guys are probably going to disagree with me on this again, but John Williams' music.
Please don't say it's bad, because it was actually quite good. Please, please.
I think I'll need to listen to the soundtrack on its own, but as part of the film, there was really no standout theme in this one. Like with, say, you in the Phantom Menace, you had Duel of the Fates, you had some of the pod race music. There was the Qui-Gon's theme. There was new stuff. You had the love theme in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. You had the fantastic like Order 66 music, Ruminations, Padme's Ruminations, and the big Mustafar fight, Battle of the Heroes, I think it's called. In this one, I don't know if it was because of how the audio was mixed. The music to me seemed very quiet and just sort of played out in the background. There was none of that big standout theme to me. You do get the reprises of old themes like the Force theme and the Han and Leia theme, which is great to hear. But in terms of new themes, I did actually think that this soundtrack was a huge letdown.
Quick question. Were you not listening to the music, like, that scene? You know the scene I'm talking about? The scene that no one can mention.
Yeah.
Were you not listening to music in that scene?
Yeah, but there's no, like, as soon as I come out the prequels, like, you're humming or singing, like, Duel of the Fates. That's, without a question of a doubt, one of the best Star Wars songs. This, if you asked me to hum a single theme from this movie, I couldn't do it.
But
Duel of the Fates is one of the greatest soundtrack songs of all time in cinema. It's epic, it's brilliant.
So why couldn't we have had that in
Apply
this?
it to any other film.
because
You're
it wouldn't have
trying-
suited it. Right,
You're
listen.
expecting everything to be like Citizen Kane.
When did I bring up Citizen Kane? You're comparing Citizen Kane to Phantom Menace now. I didn't say that.
I'm
That was you
not.
right there.
No,
I'm saying that, like, you're expecting everything to be completely perfect and the greatest of all time.
No, I'm just saying as a
Right.
Star Wars soundtrack, John
was
Williams
great.
is the man, but to me it just didn't do much for me in this film.
right. You're talking about there's no Duel of the Fates. Duel of the Fates accompanies the Star Wars lightsaber duel. Okay, a lightsaber duel you've criticised for being more of a dance as such. If you'd have
Yeah.
put a Duel of the Fates in this film, it wouldn't have worked at all. Not any scene at all would that have worked. You couldn't have
Well,
anything.
I'm not saying use Duel of the Fates. I'm
No,
saying
but you're saying
an iconic song to this film,
yes, but
which there isn't any. It's all very incidental, just sort of in the background.
Okay, pick an iconic song for Revenge of the Sith.
I did.
The lack.
I listed loads.
Going into the spoiler scene, I'm not spoiling anything. Where the epic track would take place, there isn't one because it wouldn't suit what we see. It works, and a reprisal of Binary Sunset is the most powerful song.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a reprisal of that, but let's not take into account that this is a continuation of the original trilogy. So of course it's going to get brought back. Some of the First Order stuff felt very imperially marchy, tangled up and quietened down because they've evolved. This film is an evolvement of the originals, and I think the soundtrack does a good job. You're right, there's no memorable song, but that doesn't mean you don't get great soundtrack Oscars for having a memorable song. You have soundtrack Oscars for having a great soundtrack, and it does that.
See,
Yeah.
again, it's sort of like the John Williams thing to me with Indiana Jones 4. The first three Indiana Jones things, you could like pick a song out from each one of those films,
I can't.
and it's instantly iconic to that film.
I can only
Well,
think of the
I've
Indiana
listened
Jones
to the
theme
sound.
and the Temple of Doom kart chase. I seriously can't think of much more of the Indiana
You
Jones.
have the Ark of the Covenant theme. You have the Grail theme from the Last Crusade. You have the German theme from Last Crusade as well. There's loads of iconic songs. You get to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. There is nothing in that movie. Again, it's all very sort of background based. You do get reprisals, which is nice, but we've heard them. It's nice to hear something new. I will buy the soundtrack probably. I will give it a listen more sort of on its own to see if I can pick out something. And then if I see the movie again, maybe I'll be able to pick it out more. But just based on the movie alone, nothing really jumped out to me. So 45 minutes in, I'm struggling to think of anything else we can sort of get into for spoiler free.
Let's
If you
hit the
guys,
spoilers section then.
yeah, let's do it. Where do you guys want to start first? Because there is a lot
the
to
opening
talk
scene.
about with this
No,
movie.
start with the opening scene.
Opening scene.
Okay, go
Right.
for it.
This is without a doubt one of the best scenes of the whole film. It's without a doubt maybe the second or third best introduction to a Star Wars film we'll ever see. The stormtroopers come down and they are absolutely terrifying. If I was a 4-year-old child and I saw the slaughter that we see, I would be horrified. There's blood as well, blood dripping onto John Boyega's helmet, and it's this. I think it's a great bit of editing when they're building up Poe Dameron, who I love in this film, and I can talk about him more now. He's the fucking man. And then it kind of pulls over to John Boyega, and then you know it's him immediately, and what pursues is this brilliant scene of just how evil and twisted this is. I mean, the First Order, you kind of think, oh, they're just the offsprings of the Empire, how do we take them seriously? They do more damage in that scene than the Empire's ever done. Did you see stormtroopers slaughter anyone? No, you didn't. You saw them miss 100 shots. What does JJ have them do? They crucify everyone, and they show them getting shot on screen, and it was great. And honestly, I'll say again, if I was a kid, I'd be terrified. I think it was an absolute outstanding opening scene.
Tayte?
I have to say that, like, that opening scene, we get introduced to Poe, and I really wasn't expecting to see Poe this early on. I wasn't expecting the story to actually go in the direction that it went. In fact, I quite liked the story. Followed a quite good arc of the whole hashtag Where's Luke. That was basically the story of the film. And I quite enjoyed it. But the opening scene itself, you're introduced to BB-8, you're introduced, I'm not sure what the Jedi's, or the guy's name is.
I know she's played by Max von Sydow.
Yeah.
But,
did you guys pick up on any hint that he might have been Kanan? I was really hoping for a name drop there because they did seem like they were bigging him up as some kind of Jedi character.
Nope, and that's what I liked about it, because it would have been cool seeing Kanan, yeah, but that's just doing service to Rebels. Having a name of that caliber appear, and you know he's important. Kylo Ren recognises him, that's what I liked. And there's the first batch of hints about Kylo Ren's family, and I thought it kind of works good. And to have him killed straight away, the fact that Kylo Ren's gone and killed, Max von Sydow, someone that was on the initial script reading, that famous image when they veiled the cast, he was on there. So everyone thought, oh, is he going to be like the new Emperor because he's got that presence? He is General Ming as well. And to have Kylo Ren kill him straight away, I thought works in his favour.
Yeah.
So the opening scene for me, I can sort of go into it in more detail. First off, I want to say I loved the text in the opening crawl for this one. I thought it absolutely set the scene perfectly. I was really into that, and the first shot with that shadow moving across the moon, very New Hope style. It was very. I would say that was a homage on that one. That wasn't a complete rehash because I did like the design of how immense this ship was going across the planet. Thought that was great, and I did agree that the stormtroopers were a lot more violent in this one. They were actually hitting stuff with their bullets, which was nice to see for a change. The thing with the blood for me, I was quite confused as to where the blood came from because I thought like these laser blasts sort of like burn the person and they just go down. So seeing blood, I was like, whoa, okay, that's a bit strange. But one thing, I don't know if you can clear this up for me, George, because I say I've only seen it once. I was under the impression that, like, I think Finn says that this was his first fight he was going into. So when that one solitary stormtrooper dies, that sort of like changes the entire line of thinking about the First Order. But I swear to God, like later on in the film, they say that, I think it's Phasma who says something like his track record was impeccable. He's never shown any signs of defecting over before. which implies that he's been in lots more action before. And then, so I was really confused as to why seeing one stormtrooper die, and I'm sure loads of stormtroopers have died on the field next to him in battle before. Why that one guy like suddenly gave him this epiphany that he didn't want to be a part of this thing?
I don't think it was the one guy dying. I think it was the realization of people dying, then seeing what the stormtroopers are doing. They're slaughtering and murdering innocent people. Then you cut to the actual the scene that really turns him when they're murdering everyone, and there's this shot of him, and it's just him standing forward with his gun, and it's not lighting up, and the ones on the left and right are. I think the scene is just a realization, and the guy. I want to say, do you remember when the merchandise came out? There were some Finn quotes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't look at that because I didn't want spoilers, but yeah.
I only ever saw the Finn ones, and one of them was something. It was Captain Phasma to Finn, and she was telling Finn to take the shot, and Finn was shouting at someone not to take a shot. So again, I think there could be more on the cutting floor with that. But I think the scene was just his realization, and immediately it sets him, rather than have him do battles and then eventually turn half an hour in, get him done early, changes the character, and then you have, in all honesty, one of the best character development scenes in the TIE Fighter when he's with Poe Dameron. Something which I had no clue was going to happen either. I didn't think they'd both be on the TIE Fighter together.
Yeah.
Can I just say something about that scene? Not so much the scene with the TIE Fighter. I do think that... I know what you're saying, like you want to just get to the action, just get on with it straight away, but I do think that sort of Poe's and Finn's relationship was done very, very quickly. It was just sort of Finn showing up in Stormtrooper armor like, I don't want to be a Stormtrooper anymore, and Poe was like, great, let's get out of here, we're best buddies now. I do think that was a little rushed, and I would have liked to have saw
They
that.
weren't best buddies at that point.
No,
it was
they
the
were
chemistry that they made when they were able to escape together.
Yeah,
I
mean,
know, but to me, that is especially because he was the enemy. Finn was the enemy, and just like one person coming up to say, like, "Yeah, I don't want to be a stormtrooper now." They did seem to become friends very quickly. I would have liked something a bit more progressive, so that when we do get that shot that was in the trailer where they're preparing for battle and Poe taps Finn on the shoulder, and we get that great sort of like camera pan round. I think that scene would have had a lot more sort of weight to it. I just thought they arrived at that stance quite early on into the film without much sort of setup for it.
I didn't really think you need a setup. If you're a prisoner, Leia and Luke, they're best buds straight away. Her and Harrison Ford maybe not at that point, but I think if you're in Poe's situation, if some guy's breaking you out and is doing everything he can to save you, you're going to take to it. And then when they get going in the TIE Fighter, the kind of dynamic, and then Poe kind of clocks on, this guy's never had a name. Then he names him Finn. I thought that was really cool, actually. I didn't think that would happen. One of the mysteries was Finn, is he a Calrissian? No, don't be stupid. Someone, is he a Windu? No. The fact that it's just FN 2187.
Yeah.
I thought that is actually fantastic. Fair play to them for coming up with that, because no one had any idea.
Yeah. So then they crash land on Jakku. This would confuse me as well, because like Finn wakes up and the wreckage is sort of sinking into some kind of quicksand. Where the hell did Poe go? Did he sort of just like crash, unbuckle himself, and just start trekking across the desert, just sprinting away from there?
He said to him when they met, because I woke up at night and I was on my own or something like that. So I'm guessing that Poe must have kind of been like Finn and just gone somewhere else after it got hit. Because obviously the TIE Fighter wreckage was only Poe's jacket, and in all honesty I'm not sure how the jacket got there unless Poe was in, but I thought it was like an alien beast, because I'm convinced when it sunk there was a burp when that big shower came out a minute later. I don't know.
I thought that was the TIE Fighter exploded under the sand.
Yeah, I thought that was...
Oh, was it? Oh, it sounded like a burp to me, so I wasn't sure if it was like some kind of alien thing. But
film's funny, but not that funny.
I was gonna say I would have been more surprised if it was Lucas doing that.
But the next few scenes, sort of with Rey and in the village, that's where sort of to me the practical effects really kicked in. That gigantic pig creature thing, drinking out of the water trough, was amazing. I loved that thing. Seeing the aliens all around the place, it really did sort of like hit on those images of Tatooine. I mean, really, they could have made this Tatooine if they wanted to. I'm sure they could have, like, just to sort of like tie it all back in, but the fact it's another desert planet and it pretty much is Tatooine. They've just changed the name.
No, because
That's cool though.
If it was Tatooine, then it'd be like, oh, it's exactly the same as Episode 4. And I feel like the only people so far, other than you, who hates the world, who have commented on this film, have said it's a bit too much like Episode 4. That really would have made it like Episode 4.
And it would have been Sorry, carry on.
Go on. No, you go on.
I say it would have been harder to take it seriously that if she's left there, which is clearly left by Luke Skywalker, and we'll find out more in episode 8 and 9. It would have been really hard to take seriously that it was on Tatooine, and you know,
he's trying to hide her.
Yeah,
because of the Ren massacre.
Exactly.
So,
and I think Kylo Ren would have already checked Tatooine.
Yeah. But as I was saying, so I still wasn't really feeling this film up until this point. But the bit where I did was that Millennium Falcon chase. Now that scene was amazing. The visual effects in that scene, one of my favourite bits I've ever seen with the Falcon is where Rey's piloting it and she like stalls it in midair, flips it round so that Finn can make the shot for the last TIE fighter. I did think she was able to pilot that thing very quick, considering she says she's never flew the thing before. Yeah, and I did think that maybe she is Force sensitive. She sort of does have that kind of Anakin thing where she just takes to flying a plane, stuff like that. But there were a lot of incidents in this film, and that's mostly goes with Finn with the whole lightsaber thing. We know that in this film he's not the Jedi after all, and it does go to Rey, but he stands his ground pretty good next to Kylo Ren in that end fight. I know he
would have had. You see the guy calling Finn a traitor. I initially thought that was going to be someone who we'd meet at the very start of the film, who would be like one of his friends on the Death Star, you know, because Stormtroopers got to have friends somewhere. But like, I think that everyone's probably been trained in using one of those staffs. I mean, like you said, he was given extensive training, and what you were saying earlier about him having no signs of any kind of turning or anything, I reckon that probably was his first day in the field. And I'm not gonna lie, but like, Stormtroopers don't always go and kill people. They usually do other stuff like patrols, and maybe that was the first time that he was called up, because a lot of people were called up to go find these. To find
I just think with Kylo Ren, who had been trained before, and we'll get into sort of like the Supreme Leader Snoke stuff in a minute.
He was trained, but he was also
shot.
Injured.
Yeah, I was about to bring up. He'd been shot by Chewbacca in the waist. That's why he was doing this brilliant
punching himself. Yeah,
I thought that was awesome.
I did like that.
So you had a wounded Ren who gets wounded.
Which means I'd love to see him fight when he's fully operational.
Kylo Ren he's just a fucking man. I'm gonna buy myself one of them like 90 quid helmets. Just stare at it all day long.
No, seriously, after watching this film, I want to next year look like Kylo Ren. Like, I'm gonna Ren the hell
grow the hair out.
I'd say your hair's at the right
I don't
length.
need to grow the hair out. My hair's at the right length anyway.
Oh. But there's one point I want to make really briefly about these weird electro staff truncheon things. Okay, so in an age where the Jedi are pretty much extinct, you've really at this point just got Luke. What is the point in training up your entire legion of stormtroopers to use these weapons that can block lightsabers in a world where lightsabers aren't a common thing?
They're not there to block lightsabers. They're there to probably use for riot. I think the Black Series figure is called like the Riot Protection Stormtrooper or something, and it's that one. Some of them have shields as well. I'm just guessing it's just a weapon. I mean, they've got the new heavy troopers. If you notice, they're like sort of black cross things on, cross guards. I mean, and I just think they've just got a bigger armory. And they would have designed it as well, because if you're going to design a weapon in Star Wars, you would want it to be able to take down lightsabers.
And actually, they are going to be going after, like, the Stormtroopers will be going after Luke, so they want to be testing things that could go against lightsabers. They know that Kylo Ren has one, and they know that if they come up against someone and they're alone, then they want to be able to be trained in some way, shape, or form to defend themselves. Otherwise, it's pointless them being there in the first place. Their enemy is the Jedi, and therefore they got to have weapons which are anti-Jedi.
Yeah, that was just a point in my discussion earlier that my mate brought up, so I thought I'd bring that to discussion. Let's get on to Supreme Leader Snoke. So, revealed a lot quicker than I expected. I thought they were going to go sort of like the whole Emperor route with this, like he'd get a couple of mentions, maybe a brief glimpse in the first one. Second one, you'd see him just more in the shadows, just a brief little glimpse, and then the third one, he'd just be unleashed on the world. But we see him, and we see a lot of him. We see like all 100 feet of him, because he is huge. Not at all what I was expecting. Now, I know this is just a hologram, so maybe the actual character is more conventional height. I did think it was slightly goofy seeing him that high. It sort of reminded me of the character Calypso from Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, just like towering above everyone. But then I was thinking to stuff like I don't know if you guys have seen all of the Clone Wars episodes, but there's this arc where Anakin and Obi-Wan go to sort of this really mythic temple where you've sort of got the balance of the Force. In a literal sense, you've got this sort of woman in white robes that signifies the light side, dark side is this evil character, and then you've got sort of like this wizard guy who's the balance of it. And I think that they're sort of like immense, tall beings as well. Not quite as big as Supreme Leader Snoke, but that was probably the biggest surprise of this movie for me, was seeing just how huge he is. Whether he is that height, I have no idea if that was just a hologram, but that did take me by surprise initially.
I thought the hologram was cool because I'd heard of rumours. I mean, I was the first one to ask, is that picture you saw on YouTube the real image of Snoke?
No, I think a few rumours came out after that was just sort of like a fake image. The actual face that looked like it was very much like the Kylo Ren mask, but it sort of had like more of a Vader sort of breathing thing attached to the front of it in gold. So I thought that was true because it looked like it was sort of going with the whole image of Kylo Ren, and I thought those two may have been linked. But no, this was completely different.
What I loved was the build-up. Andy Serkis is one of my favourite actors. I was so intrigued to see who he was playing, or to see the design, I should say. And I think it was awesome seeing that. And then when they revealed it, I didn't expect it. I heard a voice, and you notice him immediately. And I had the drink to my mouth, like I had my water bottle, and I just like froze for like a minute. And it's when he came on, it's like, oh my god, yeah, you're right, he is pretty big. Then when it clocked on for the hologram at the end, I was like, not only is this clever, every rumour that came out about Snoke being a giant is defected because it's a hologram. And I'm convinced he is Darth Plagueis. I know it's a famous rumour that's going around. The second time I saw this film today, every scene he was in, I looked at one thing. That was the gigantic slash mark in his head that pulls to the back, that looks like someone could have clamped him on the end of a lightsaber. Possibly Palpatine.
And now that Kylo Ren's got a matching scar, they can be best buddies.
Well, we're surely going to see him now, because at the end, he said to Hooks, bring Kylo Ren to me, I'll complete his training.
No, legit, this is what I think's going to happen. They're going to have, everyone knows the montage from Rocky 4. They're going to have a repeat of this with the exact same music. I know that Family Guy did it, but I reckon they're going to have, on one side, Rey doing her training. She's going to be the Rocky in this one. She's going to be, like, chopping down trees and, like, helping donkeys get back up on their feet, whilst, like, Kylo Ren's going to be in the lab being tested by people, like, doing, like, push-ups and stuff like that, and he's going to be, like, physically tested and pushed to the limit, and it's going to be parallel, it's going to be amazing with the music in the background, you know? That's what's going to happen, yeah?
And don't take, because you're making me really want to see this movie right now.
And the best thing, I would bet a lot of money on seeing Supreme Leader Snoke versus Luke Skywalker in a duel.
Yeah.
At the same time
Absolutely.
as Rey versus Ren, the rematch.
Ooh.
I would bet a lot
Very
of
much
money
like
on that.
Revenge of the Sith there, yeah.
No.
So
I mean 2-on-2 in the same location.
Same
Yes.
fight, yeah.
I see that happening.
Have we seen a 2-on-2 lightsaber fight yet?
Not only in Clone Wars, we've never seen it in a film. We've seen a 2-on-1.
We need to see a 2-on-2.
Exactly, it'd be so interesting. But that's my bet for episode 8 already.
That'd be incredible.
But I'm very interested to see a lot more of him. I think Andy Serkis, he knows what he's doing. He's a bit Gollum-ish, some of his words, but
yeah,
the design was just interesting. I think that's the best thing to take. Again, it's a hologram. When we see him, he might be blue, he might be pink. We don't know.
The only thing is, like, with the whole Plagueis thing, like, this was just me though, because in the old canon, Plagueis was the same sort of alien as that banking clan alien, I think, from Attack of the Clones, in that sort of conference room with Count Dooku, the very sort of long oval head. So to me, I was looking at it, I was like, oh, well, that can't be Plagueis, because Plagueis is a different alien. Then I'm thinking, well, no, now that's all not canon. They can make Plagueis whoever the hell they want. So I do think that's entirely possible. And you were saying about that scar, I do think that's there for a reason. I mean, it looks cool, it makes him look villainous, but that would be awesome if they do tie it in that way. And that would be a sort of nice bridge between the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, and this new trilogy that's coming out. Is there anything else? Shall we get on to... Oh, first off, really brief point, which will sort of get us onto the topic I think we need to talk about. It was awesome. This was the best ever we saw Chewie's crossbow bolt
Yes.
caster. This was amazing, and there's sort of that running gag throughout the whole film where Han's like, I want one of these. Like, this is amazing. I want to use this more often. They've been together for so long. I don't know how he hasn't noticed how awesome this thing is, but this is the best we've ever seen it. And the sort of the scene that follows the key scene that we need to talk about, seeing Chewie in action like that. This is the best we've ever seen Chewbacca, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you hate this film?
There are bits like that, but they are very few and far. But that's the only thing. But shall we just get on to the main point now? I think we need to talk
Let's
about.
get on to the big spoiler. The spoiler that as soon as he stepped onto the bridge, I realized which of the main characters was going to be dying in this Star Wars film. And paralleling, once again, Episode 4, it was the wise teacher who fell so valiantly to his own son.
There was a lot of Empire in there, I thought, as well, in terms of the location.
Not only that, but like the lighting in that scene was absolutely amazing. I mean, you can see it on like Kylo Ren's face. At one point, half his face is red, half his face is light, and you can see him handing over the lightsaber, and like he's almost there, and then suddenly the sun blacks out, it all goes red. You see the light still with Daisy Ridley and oh my god.
Boyega?
Boyega, yes. And sorry, it's been a long day.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it turns, his grip tightens, and he goes and stabs almost everyone's favourite character in the Star Wars franchise, Han Solo.
Yeah, and we get the name drop as well, that his real name is actually Ben, which
Goosebumps.
I believe is in the old canon. I know that I don't know if it was Ben Skywalker though. I don't know if it was Luke's son who was called Ben, but I thought that was a nice little hint there. Yeah, we all knew it was coming, and sadly, I did kind of get spoiled because I knew that one character in this film would not make it through the entire film. Now, my money was either on Han or Finn, and we sort of got that shot in the trailer with Rey over the body crying in the snow, and because we obviously saw Finn fighting Kylo Ren in the snow, I thought it was going to be him who wouldn't make it. And my friend sadly accidentally spoiled it for me. He's making a short film just as a production with a bunch of people, and the main actor they've got in it is the one who played the stunt double of Finn in this movie. And he said to me, like, he won't be free next year or that much because he needs to start work on episode 8. So right there, I knew that Finn was, in the next movie, so I thought it's going to be Han. And then when that scene started and Han was making his way across that walkway, I was like, it's coming. It's coming. Now, again, I've got to be sort of like the harbinger of doom here again. I thought that how they dealt with Han's death was very sort of like they washed their hands of it very quickly. Like even Qui-Gon Jinn, you got some kind of funeral, you got some kind of remembrance. With Han, to me, it was just like, oh yeah, Han didn't make it. Oh yeah, we said, okay, moving on, and then it just cut really quickly. I would have liked a bit more of it dwelled on.
Here's why they couldn't really
recover the body. Yeah.
Not only that, but like he'd already said his goodbyes. I mean, he had already made his peace with everyone, and I feel like at that point he was on a mission. He knew what it meant if he didn't make it, and I think he was okay with that, and I think it completely ended perfectly the character arc, as in the end his final scenes were shown as not the asshole or the renegade guy who we saw in the first film, but as a father holding on to his son as he falls into the depths of oblivion. Is there anything more beautiful than that? I feel like that was one of the most beautiful deaths in the Star Wars franchise. Why do you hate this film, Chris?
This...
yeah, go on, George.
Tate, I was speaking to you last night.
Yeah.
How... I didn't sound right. You can get the gist of that. This scene is without doubt the most...
heartbreaking.
I can't describe it. All I'm gonna... When it got onto the bridge, I was like, I think I know what's gonna happen. I don't want to see this, and I was emotionally... When he said Ben, I was like, full goosebumps. I was like, Ben! Ben! I was like, Ben Solo, that's his real name. Um, and then it kind of happened, and then it's when the light faded. I was like, oh my
Yeah.
god, he's played him. And then when he stabbed him, I screamed, apparently. I was bawling in tears. I got a tissue out. I was just crying immediately. I cried again today. I think my whole family did. It was horrifying, and I'm not joking. It took me out of the film completely. I had Tate telling me the actual story elements afterwards because I didn't clock on what was happening. I was in such shock and devastation. I have been emotionally wrong. I didn't get to bed till about 4:30 last night.
Yeah.
There were just tears flowing and flowing and flowing. And it's probably the saddest thing I've ever seen on cinema. I didn't think I'd ever see anything as worse than Marley and Me, and then JJ topped it. It was maybe the big. It's obviously the biggest. It's really hard to talk about because I'm getting quite emotional now. It was just sad to see it happen, but it was done so well, and it wasn't just the stabbing. I was shocked and upset at the stabbing, but this when they threw him off, and he had his hand on his face, and that got me, and then I was just a mess. I left my 3D glasses on last night. I left them on. I was on home on Skype. I had my 3D glasses on and didn't want to take them off. There were a lot of tears. They were very red, I'm guessing. It was horrific.
Yeah.
It was truly horrific. But going into Kylo Ren, this is what is going to make him the most important character of the next two films, I should say. Because how they're going to deal with this, I really hope they've got it planned well, because they've got so much potential now. He's done a worse deed than what Darth Vader ever did. Granted, I can't compare them yet. He's the spoilt kid. It was just without a doubt heartbreaking, and then it was Chewbacca's kind of raw thing afterwards.
Yeah, that got me, that bit.
It was truly devastating, and I still can't comprehend it tonight. You know, it's not like family. That's I don't know if that's the right word, but when you've seen the same 3 films 16 years in your life, and then someone, you know, is just crucified on their return, it's heartbreaking.
Sort of sticking with Han a little bit, I did think that one thing I was really looking forward to in this film was sort of his interaction with Leia. I was really hoping that they would have stayed together the whole time. Unfortunately, that's not the case. They've been separated. They've sort of stayed friends. They acknowledge each other and everything like that. I did think that part was kind of lacking between them. I know they have those nice interactions where she's like, "Bring our son back," but I was really hoping they'd have stayed together and everything like that. But they said that when they couldn't get their son back, sort of like Han went away and went back to the life of smuggling. She became a general. I would have liked more of sort of like the romance thing, like the continuation from Empire and Return of the Jedi. I think if they'd have if Leia had appeared earlier into the film, and we'd have had more interactions with them, I think that, I know it really hit you emotionally for the Han thing. I think it would have just absolutely knocked it out of the park if that had been more of a present thing in the film. But as I said, with sort of like the old crew, the biggest two for me that felt really absent were C-3PO and R2-D2. These are the two characters. I know we have mixed opinions on C-3PO and everything like that, but they are the two mascots that have been in every single film. They are sort of the eyes of the audience, really, and sort of like the comedic duo. And I do think that their presence was really lost in this movie, especially R2-D2, who's basically taken a vow of silence since Luke disappeared, and he's just sort of like switched himself off and just stood there. That's going to be interesting if they ever do.
Or Luke put him in that mode. You ready for this? Luke put him in that mode and was waiting for a Jedi's presence to wake up R2-D2, which is exactly what happened.
But my friend made a really good point about this actually. So BB-8 had the lost bit of the map, right? The little finishing one. R2-D2 had the rest of the map. My friend said, so this awesome task force of the Resistance with Leia as the general, they're only missing one piece of the puzzle. Surely Luke is somewhere in that missing piece right there, probably smack bang in the middle.
But he wasn't.
Why
in the
didn't they
middle.
just
if
go
you
there
read
and
the
check?
map, he wasn't in the middle. like, if you had actually looked at the screen, then you would have seen he was definitely not in the middle. And I'm pretty sure that, like, it would have been very difficult to try and find him in like, that area of space. I mean, I can barely find my way through town sometimes, with or without a map. So, like, think of all the planets in the Star Wars universe, think of all the galaxies in the Star Wars universe, think of the Star Wars universe as a whole. Do you really think they would have been able to find it in that area of space?
And
no,
it was
no
like,
chance.
I know it's filmed in Ireland on that Skellig Island or something, but when they fly over, there's like 5 or 6 little rocky islands, and they're on the right one. Going into the R2 stuff, that's one thing I will say I was disappointed by. I mean, I kind of get the Jedi presence stuff, it was cool, but again, it was R2-D2. I know he's Luke's droid. I just really wanted to see some sort of banter between him and BB. I know we had a little short scene of it, but it was a shame we didn't see a lot of him. But I love the fact that he's there with Rey and Chewie at the end. So I'm guessing that R2's going to be with Rey training with Luke, which will be awesome. But another thing that cheesed me, I'll go into it later on, but when the shot of Luke in the trailer as part of Rey's vision, it was kind of cool that it wasn't there, but then I'm like, is that going to be part of 8, or is it just a random vision at that?
Yeah, shall we actually talk about that vision? Because I think there's a lot to go from in that. One of the most disappointing things for me was not actually finding out where that lightsaber came from. They set it up like the lightsaber's just there in a crate, and I was saying to my friends, like, how did they get that? It fell down the, what was it, like the reactor shaft or whatever it was in Bespin in Empire Strikes Back. And then Han asks that very question, like, how did you get that? And she goes, oh, that's a answer for another time. And I was like, oh, brilliant. Like, that better get a good payoff in either episode 8 or not, otherwise I'm going to be really annoyed that they never explained where that came from.
Well, you're saying that better to have a good payoff, like, so what you're saying is if the next film isn't good, this film isn't good, or this next film
I'm saying
needs to
that
be good for this film to be good? Because that
I
makes
just
no
think
sense.
that this one, more so than any other first chapter, left way too much open-ended, and that was my comparison to Prometheus, like sort of what that film did. It was like, oh, if you want more context, you've got to buy that second ticket, you've got to come back and find out, so all this stuff makes sense.
What about
I think that.
Jabba?
God, sorry.
What about Jabba the Hutt? He's referenced in episode 4, and furthermore in 5, and he's not seen till 6. What about that though?
I do think these were huge plot points, though, whereas that was sort of just like a character who was going to appear. This is sort of like massive flashbacks and details and characters pass. I do think there was a lot more going on. And also because it's J.J. Abrams, it doesn't fill me with much confidence, because I was a huge fan of the TV series Lost, and I saw how that went, how many questions that raised, and you sort of stuck with it and hoped for answers, and then you got to the end and you didn't get them. So I'm just preparing myself for that.
I don't think you should be comparing Star Wars to Lost.
No.
It's very, very, very different, and J.J. Abrams didn't even write the finale.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess you're right there, yeah. I don't know, but there was a lot of stuff in that vision that we saw. We see the Knights of Ren, who I actually thought were going to get going to be a big deal in this film. There was a whole group of them, but we didn't really get to see much of them apart from in that one shot, which I guess was a flashback, right? To when sort of Kylo Ren was just like going around the galaxy with these. I doubt that's going to be a flash forward. We get some of Rey's mysterious past, where, as you said, that's probably going to be Luke who left her on the planet. And there was just like a whole lot to do. What did you guys think of Maz Kanata as a character? Because I, to be honest, I really didn't care for all that much.
Really?
I thought it was
she
really
was
cool.
quite good.
It's not what I expected. From the trailer, you think that this is going to be some wise thing, but when the doors opened and it was kind of like the reggae, and then they have that shot of the aliens, so that this is really, really cool, and it's something you don't expect, but when you look at it as what it is, you know that Han Solo's going to know someone like that. And when she says of being here for 1,000 years, it's really cool. I thought, and I thought it was a really pleasant surprise, in all honesty, because it would have been cool, but so easy to have had a wise old person in a castle with lots of people, whereas just having it almost as like a bar, I thought it was awesome.
I do think maybe that bit was trying really too desperately hard to capture the magic of the cantina scene from A New Hope. And I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but those spies that are in there, the first one you see really reminded me of that Imperial spy from A New Hope that sort of like tails them through the corridors and stuff on Tatooine and like calls on the walkie-talkie. That reminded me of that scene a little bit as well.
Kind of, except that one was on the Resistance side.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think of any other scenes we could talk about. I guess
The
we could talk
lightsaber duel.
about lightsaber duel, maybe a bit of sort of the attack on the third Death Star, and sort of like end off with the whole Luke cliffhanger. So whatever you guys want to hit, go for it.
I have to say that in the lightsaber duel, I found it quite entertaining. The fact that it had two different layers to it. Not only that, but like the whole when Rey was fighting with the lightsaber, she was using moves that you would use with a staff, not a lightsaber. And I thought that was because they could have very easily done, oh, now she's an amazing lightsaber duelist. No, she's just using staff moves and applying it to a lightsaber, and that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Not only that, but John Boyega puts up a good goddamn fight for not being force sensitive.
That's what I meant. Yeah, it
But
seemed a
that's
bit.
because of his training as a stormtrooper. Like they're being trained in the anti-Jedi, like Jedi ways. So he may have received some training in how to wield not a lightsaber, but the electric stick type thing.
Sorry, Karen.
Oh, go on.
No, I was going to finish after you.
Okay. But not only that, but like Kylo Ren, even when he's injured, he's a reasonably good lightsaber duelist. I can't wait to see him when he's actually, like, once I said again, fully operational. But I just wanted to say that I actually quite enjoyed it. I feel like there was one thing that it was not a big thing, but I feel like they had a Deus Ex Machina moment where the planet split in half, and that was the only thing that really... it wasn't annoying, but the fight had to end somehow. Both characters had to survive, and it seemed somewhat convenient, but I was okay with it. I mean, I'm not going to nitpick on that, am I, Chris?
I would nitpick on stuff like that, but that's just me. Yeah, go on, George.
Right. With my thoughts on the I've just been sent a hilarious picture of Nicolas Cage as everyone in the Force Awakens. Right, okay, I'm going to compare to myself. During the
You're gonna have to put that in the video now.
I am. I'm going to put it in. Don't worry. I'm going to make sure everyone sees it. Right. Okay. Hold on. Right.
That's what the film you want it to look like, right, Chris? That's how you want it to be, right?
I'm gonna open this right now. Hang on.
So, during the lightsaber
Oh my god, that's amazing.
It's incredible. I didn't expect it.
It's that top left one.
When the lightsaber was shown in that first trailer, you're like, oh, the crossguard, how's he going to use it? I thought, just going a few minutes into the duel anyway, you have the knackered Kylo Ren punching himself, trying to get fit, taking on John Boyega. I thought it was awesome that he obliterated Rey by throwing her into a tree, knocking her out cold. It was brilliant. And then when they're fighting each other, Kylo Ren is just there. John Boyega's not even trying, is more self-defending himself, but he knows he's screwed. And there's that moment when he digs him into the tree, and he's poking him in the shoulder with the side, and I was like, oh my god. And then you just have the killer, where he swipes up across his back, and my reaction to that was, oh my days.
Do you reckon that he's going to be paralysed, and he might be kind of a character going around in like a speedster wheelchair type thing?
It's like some like next level BB Briega hashtag.
Yeah. Hashtag BBBA.
I thought it was a good end because you said it the other day, Tate. He is going to get wrecked, and he did. And you don't think they're going to kill off two main characters? I still didn't. I thought he'd be alive in the N8, which he is. But I thought the fight was really cool, and then it was the whole design. I mean, I love the location of the forest in the snow. It's something new. We haven't really seen anything like that. And then when you get to the Rey moment, my two nitpicks, I'll go into Luke later on. When Boyega's knackered on the floor and Kylo Ren's using the Force to pull it, when it flew, I thought it was going to be Mark Hamill standing there.
Yeah, same. I was hoping for that as well.
That would have been incredible. And then when it got to Rey, I thought, when they played Binary Sunset, I thought that was great. It was a cool moment. It's cool she's got the Force like that. The one thing I want to say is I really disliked how she could do the Force mind trick really quickly. That's my one grinding flaw with it. She learned that way too quickly. It would have been cool if it was just revealed, because it was awesome, the scene of her and Kylo Ren when he takes the helmet off and she passes him off in the brain.
I think the Jedi mind trick scene, I think the stormtrooper in that was actually Daniel Craig.
I won't be surprised. I thought, because there's loads of cameos, isn't there? I know that Simon Pegg also played one as well.
Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, I'm pretty sure, were the stormtroopers who walked away when Kylo Ren was having a rage moment.
Or Benedict Cumberbatch.
I also thought they could be those two characters in Maz Kanata's bar. You know, they refer to that. I think it's like the red robot guy and the other one. And then they just sort of like dropped out of the movie. I thought it could maybe have been them as well.
Pegg was on set a lot more than I thought. He played the portions thing, which was cool, I thought.
Right.
But in the Empire magazine, he was on set tons, and he was on set with Carrie Fisher on one day, so I'm guessing there was a few crossing locations. Obviously, the Maz Kanata building's the same location as Carrie Fisher's arrival. So I think he was in it a lot. But yeah, Daniel Craig said he was a stormtrooper. I think I read Benedict Cumberbatch was one as well. But it was cool, that stuff. But going back to the lightsaber duel, you mentioned the ground splitting up. I also thought that would be Luke, because there was talk that he's the most powerful, he can move mountains. I thought Luke would have been crumbling the floor to stop the fight, but again, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Which was a bit of a shame, because it would have been awesome just to... I think because I convinced myself he'd turn up at that fight scene, and he didn't.
But she was winning that fight, and I reckon she probably would have killed him.
I think she would have. I thought she beheaded him.
I was just about to say that. I thought that too.
I leapt out of my chair because I was still crying from Han Solo, and I was so angry. And then when I kind of jumped up, I'd clocked on, and then he was fine. And I actually didn't notice the black marks across his face until today. I mean, literally, I was completely out of it last night. I have no idea how they destroyed the Death Star or Starkiller Base, but I've clocked it all on today, and he is now screwed. His marks all over his face with the lightsaber. Their rematch is going to be interesting.
And just I'll give brief thoughts on the fight. I loved that it went more to the style of the original trilogy fighting. Like, you could replace these lightsabers with swords and it would still work. It just goes to show you don't need all the flips and the twirls and the CGI stuff like that. That one shot that we got in the extended TV spot that we all just massively fanboyed over, that 3-second shot was incredible to watch. I thought it was a decent fight. I don't exactly know where I'd sort of rank it against all the other ones. I think I'm going to have to watch this film a good few more times, let it have a few years before I sort of started to rank it against things like that. But I did love that. Completely agree with you that I thought that Rey went full on dark side, like Luke beating down on Vader and just cut Kylo Ren's head off. I even turned to my friend and said, great, they've just Darth Mauled Kylo Ren, but I love that they've kept him alive because I think there's a lot they can do with his character. And I'm right there with you about the whole lightsaber freezing where Kylo Ren's trying desperately to use the Force on it. It's not working. And I thought this is going to be our reveal of Mark Hamill and it's going to be insane. The lightsaber's going to go back to its original, well, not original holder, but the one that Luke had originally. And I thought this is going to be insane. Luke's going to come in and finish off the fight and save the other two. Didn't quite work that way. So we'll get on to Mark Hamill now. Were you disappointed at the amount of Mark Hamill we got in this film, or do you think it was just the right amount to tease for the next one?
No, because it was all about where's Luke. You weren't exactly going to have a full-on conversation with him in the film if the entire idea of the film was trying to find him. And you got 3 films to tell the story of finding Luke and stuff like that, and the training being the second movie, just like in Empire. I'm completely okay with it, and I don't even care whether he got no lines, one line. I really don't care. I just like the fact that he was there in the end. It was a brilliant ending to the film, sets it up perfectly. And why do you hate this film, Chris?
I hate this film because I thought the whole attack on Starkiller Base was kind of not needed in this film. I thought that was a step too far. And that...
Also, before we go into this, did they blow up Coruscant?
Yeah, I thought that as well.
I couldn't tell because the planet's dark when they fire the missiles, but it looks like it. But
really heavy built-up city, yeah.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure. I've tweeted it, and I didn't tweet. I searched Coruscant, and no one's really sure. I was just wondering if anyone thought that as well, because it was such a brilliant speech.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that, I mean, we've talked about that the whole original intention of the stormtroopers and stuff in the original Star Wars was a homage to the Nazis and stuff. They just go straight for it this time. He's giving that very Hitler-like speech, and then they even go the whole way with having the stormtroopers do almost like a Hitler salute as well. But that was badass with the whole red light going up behind them as well. To me, sort of just the weak point of the ending was the whole space battle. To me, that did feel like a complete rehash of A New Hope. The whole concept of having like a new Death Star thing, having to find its weak spot, flying down the trenches in the X-wings. To me, that was just a step too close to the originals. I'm okay with stuff like seeing the chess game, the occasional one-liners like "Did you fly this in 13 parsecs?" Like, no, it was 12. Stuff like that's fine. But when it's an entire action set piece that is so similar to the original, I just thought that was like J.J. Abrams with Star Trek Into Darkness, where he basically just rehashes the entire ending of, Wrath of Khan in the
Nah,
ending.
It's
I didn't think that
very.
was needed.
I think it's
disagree.
very unfair. They're only in the trench for about 30 seconds. The rest of it's more or less aerial bombardments on the area. They literally just go in that trench for 30 seconds to get into that wall.
And you have to remember, yeah, there's a trench and stuff, but think about it. Trenches are usually defensively solid. Like, you have the advantage on both sides. You just so happen to be dealing with, in both situations, some of the best pilots in the galaxy. I mean, like, impossible to kind of predict anything like that would normally happen, so... Yeah, I mean...
There's, going off the Pirates of the Galaxy, at Celebration, Oscar Isaac, I'm the best pilot in the galaxy. I was like, you're the man. I love myself in X-Wing. I love doing Fighter Squadron on Battlefront. I've always taken to space battles, stuff like that. I actually hate flying in real life. Such a great irony. There's a bit at the fight at Maz Kanata's castle. I actually clocked on today. I watched the X-Wing. He killed 13 people in about 10-15 seconds time. He took out 4 TIE fighters in a row, then another 3, then ground troops. And I thought it was brilliant. Just rewatching that shot, because the camera's panning as well at the same time. And it's background info, but it just builds up Poe Dameron's reputation, which was awesome. And the trench run
That's the
stuff was
stage you got to
pretty cool.
get to on Battlefront.
No,
Yeah.
I've done it. I've done 56 kills and 1 death. I've got myself.
Nice.
I'm very good, and it's double XP in honor of the Force Awakens, so I should have it finished by Sunday.
Sweet. There's really only other one scene I can think of, and this is sort of going back to the start of the film, but I know we sort of referred to it earlier. The scene for me that could have been cut, and for me was that Han with those 3 weird Venus flytrap type creatures. Saying that JJ made a huge push for like practical, this scene really took me out of it. This was really overly CGI'd for me, this bit, and this is gonna if we have any Scottish viewers, I'm really sorry for what I'm about to say. I have nothing against you as a people, but when he started talking in a really thick Scottish accent, I'm sorry, that just really took me out of the movie. I was like, so there's a Scotland now, but then I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, well, we get Americans, we get Asians, we just everything, we get English. So why am I having this reaction to the Scottish accent? I think it's maybe because we haven't had it in Star Wars before, that it is that sort of Star Wars is such an ingrained formula that when you do something different, you do kind of step back. But I don't know if it was during the recording or before, you mentioned the guy from the raid there, when I saw him, I was like, this is going to be immense. Like Han and the crew, they're like wedged in the middle between these two. Yeah, and I thought this is going to be immense, because this guy is probably one of the best guys from the Raid films. I think he's in both of them. And you're right, it just ended in minutes. And I'm trying to think back to the scene now. I do need to see the film again. I can't remember sort of how that scene leads on to the next one, and I do think you probably could just cut that entire scene out, to be honest, and nothing much would have changed.
Yeah, actually, that scene... it's the whole idea of Han getting back into the Millennium Falcon. There could have been other ways around it, but I feel like that scene broke up the film reasonably good. As far as pacing, I was aware, if it just dragged on from there, then you would have been left saying, oh, well, it's dragged on, no action or anything. It also kind of led to a bit more character development between Daisy Ridley and John Boyega, so I quite liked it.
It was quite cool. It's not what I expected, which works in his favour. One thing I want to say, the Guavian Enforcers, basically there's these Black Series figures, which are the coolest ones.
Yeah.
I haven't bought them. I've clocked on there's going to be a trap of a lot of secondary. There's just brilliantly designed sort of the red things in there. There's Guavian things with like the black circle heads. They didn't do anything. But in the Comic Con reel, you actually see one of them running down a corridor. So I'm seriously guessing that there must have been some deleted scenes before their monster things got loose, or they just went for a different
And you were talking
thing.
about Yeah, you were talking about the character of Constable Zuvio as well, who's one of the figures as well. Really great looking character. He's got. Is that the one with like the hat on? I think,
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
like sort of the scarf across his mouth. You don't remember seeing him in the whole film. Oh, I thought it was that guy riding the beast that sort of captures BB-8,
No.
but you say that's not him. So he must have been cut from the film also.
yeah, and he was even in Empire magazine. Like they had a whole, they had hyped up pictures of him as well. But again, he wasn't there. Again, it could be in the extended because his description was something like he keeps the law enforced on Jakku, but they don't really delve into it. Maybe they didn't have enough time because the one thing I'll praise of the film is 2 minutes 15 minus 5 of credits is the right amount of time a blockbuster should be. It's not too
Yeah.
long, it's not too short, and when it's Star Wars, you could do 3-4 hours and people watch it, but I think they got the pacing of the film right.
Mm. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to talk about. I think we've pretty
I'm
much
good
hit it
here.
all, and we are like an hour and a half over.
One final
Oh,
thing.
go on.
What are your guys' predictions for Rey's family?
Okay, I have a different prediction to most people. Oh, I think pretty much everyone at the moment is saying, "Oh, Luke's the father." No, I don't think Luke is the father. I think that that Jedi purge we saw with Kylo Ren, I reckon that her parents were there when that happened, and it's something that I can't remember which character mentions it, but they say your
Yeah.
parents aren't coming back. And I think that maybe that's why Han Solo. I think Luke was the one who left her there, but because he knew that she was Force sensitive, and he just did not want anything to do with that. Like he felt like he'd failed. He didn't want another like
Kylo.
Sith Lord on his hands. So he just left her on the planet, and I just think that's how the story arc goes.
It's interesting because you think with the lightsaber passed down that it would be Luke's offspring, which I think it could be. I've got my own theory that obviously they say Kylo Ren's Luke's apprentice, that he turned on him, tried to kill him, he's trying to hunt him down. I reckon at some point between 6 and 7, Luke maybe got married. I know he's doing Jedi Academy. I think Kylo Ren may have killed Luke's partner if he had one, and then Luke dumps. Because Kylo Ren knew all about Rey. Oh, that girl they speak of, all that. So I reckon there's a lot of history there. But in all honesty, fair play for not revealing it, because it would have been too easy of a trap for them to reveal everything in Episode 7. And it
Yeah.
leaves you guessing.
And there's something else. When he's talking to Poe, he is very brutal. He's very evil. Whilst he tries at first to get the information from Rey,
He's
he
subtle.
tries to talk to her first. Is that something different?
Because
maybe?
she goes, "Where am I?" And he's like, "You're my guest," and all this. And I really like this scene. When they unmasked him, I thought it was pretty cool. It shuts up the idiots that thought Kylo Ren was Luke. But I think Adam Driver was phenomenal in this, and I can't wait to see him grow.
I think that she's going to be Luke's daughter, and I think that they can bring a lot of that into alongside her training, and that would be a pretty cool dynamic between the two. I think. I definitely think they are related, especially with the poster, sort of the mirror images of each other, and I think there were a lot of hints in this movie to sort of like have enough evidence to show that. One really, really quick question before we sort of round out with overall recommendation. I saw this film in 2D. You guys both saw it in 3D, right? How did the 3D... Was the 3D any good? Did it hold up well? Was it a good conversion, or was it actually shot in 3D?
Some things which were good,
Yeah.
some things which were not noticeable. I mean,
I've seen both.
it's a 3D film. I was watching a 3D film. I didn't really pay attention to the 3D too much. It just kind of blended into the background, but that's what 3D is meant to do. It's meant to make you feel... You're not meant to be, like, shown off, wow, look at that. That's 3D. You're just like, oh, good job with the 3D and overall. You're not meant to look out for singular moments. That's why I had the problem with Avatar with. I didn't like the floating mountains because they were way too obvious. Whilst with this, it was all very subtly done. Everything was very neat, and nothing really stuck out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, saw it in 3D last night, loved it. One shot of the Star Destroyer in your face looked absolutely awesome, especially the sense of depth. The crawl was really cool, very different seeing that in 3D. Just naturally the writing's closer to you. When I saw it in 2D today, obviously Tate's spot on, you're not meant to notice it, really. What I did notice was that when Kylo Ren freezes the bullet in the air, when I saw it in 2D, I thought to myself, that, you know what, that looks really cool in 3D. I've got no idea how it came into my head, but it just did. Because I remember it being pulled towards the camera, but it did a decent job, and it wasn't irritating. You have irritating 3D where they're chucking stuff at you 24/7, but this did the job. It has a sense of depth.
Yeah, I'm gonna go and see the 3D one this Saturday actually, and then I'll have seen both so I can compare.
And I'm seeing IMAX.
Um,
I'm seeing IMAX on Sunday. Cannot wait.
And I'm seeing the 2D one on Monday.
So slowly but surely we'll go and see them all eventually. But
See, you say you dislike this film, yet you're going to watch it again.
it's Star Wars though, isn't it? Even like you hear stories of people that saw Phantom Menace like 13 times.
Re-review this in a month's time. I want to see what's different.
I'm up for that.
Yeah.
I'm up for that if both of you are. Yeah. So let's just finish with overall recommendation. Really, really brief. Would you recommend go to see Star Wars Force Awakens? I'm sure everyone is anyway.
One word, yes.
I won't recommend this film because everyone in the world's going to see it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm most looking forward to actually, how much this is actually going to make, like, opening weekend, first month, whatever. It's got Jurassic World to beat this year, I think.
It's going
to do it easy because I think it's made so much back on pre-booked ticket sales already. And judging by, I think there was like 4 screens showing last night. Each one was sold out, so this is going to be just immense.
I would like to make a prediction before officially. There's been no UK finance details, just 12 international ones from Wednesday. I'm going to go
actually,
all out.
no. It made 100 million last night.
Did it? Fuck.
Yeah.
Okay. My prediction I was going to say beforehand, I'm still saying it now. This film will break every record. Almost. Okay, basic ones. It's going to get 250, maybe 270 in America opening weekend. It's going to get between 2.9 and 3.3 billion. That's my prediction of worldwide grossing. It's going to break literally any record you think of. It's taking it. And I hope it gets 3 bill. Please overtake Avatar.
Oh yeah, it definitely needs to. And it would, although, this wasn't all I hoped for. I think my mic gone weird by the way.
It's fine.
No,
Like robotic, because it looks like it's popping on mine. It would be nice to see a Star Wars film take the number 1. So so George, overall recommendation, go see it. I'm expecting.
Why are you listening to this podcast? Watch the fucking film.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't all I hoped for. Granted, I was very disappointed by it, but at the end of the day, it is still a Star Wars movie. Go and see it because you will regret this if you don't see it on the big screen. Even though it wasn't all I hoped for, I'm hoping that it does grow on me eventually. As I said, I'm going to see it a second. I'll probably see it a third time as well. But I'm going to shut up now before you two guys just kill me, and it's just, as I said, Civil War.
Be sure to rate, like, comment and subscribe, and tell us what you thought of The Force Awakens. How do you think it ranks up to the other 6 Star Wars films? I personally don't know yet. I think it's very early to tell, but it's certainly better than the prequels. And you can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/cinemasavvy, Twitter at cinema_savvy, and Letterboxd at cinema_savvy, so make sure you get involved. We're still hoping to do our top 10 Star Wars moments as well, but this has been an incredibly long review of The Force Awakens, and to me it's still bizarre that we actually had an episode 7. But until next time, thanks for listening.